welcome back to my channel. What's up? So in today's video, as you can already tell by the title, I'll be sharing with you some of the highlights of the books I read in 2022. So for people that don't know, I love reading, not like school book. Anyways, I love reading a lot. I think in the course of the year someone called me a voracious reader or something. I was like, have you met sister? Anyways, I try my best actually, and God is helping all of us. So I quickly want to talk about some of the books I read and how I learned a lot of things from them, and God has been helping me to apply it, right? So the first book I would talk about that I read, oh my goodness, that I read, and that was the first book I read this year, is When God Whispers Your Name by Max Lucado. So that book was recommended by Sisto. So I think we're like a group of people that read it, but that particular book, when it's like they wrote a book and there's a book and it's like is your name that is inside, it just kind of speaks to what I was going through at the time. And God has a specific, God knows me by name. Imagine when the Bible said that he knows the number, how do I say this in English? He has counted the hairs on her head. The hair on her Isha counted the hair on her head. Imagine that, that's so much of how he cares for us. So he knows me by name. You know that name he calls me. That's not what everybody calls me, because that is that particular uniqueness to me. So at the time, right, that book kind of speaks to what, and I feel like it speaks to every seasons of life. So it's not only someone going through a training season, people in their execution season, it speaks to them as well. So I'm so grateful for the gift of that book. It blessed me so much. And the next book I read, I don't know the next book I read after that, but one of the books that I read that really stood out for me too was The Becoming by Oluwanifemi Olawande, PMO. My goodness, that book is just like a comprehensive study on the book of Esther. It was so much light. I was seeing, although I've studied Esther, I think after I actually read the book, I've studied Esther twice. One was a personal study, and the other one was should I call it an assignment, or something like an assignment from my mentor. So, and I've seen it in both times. I've gotten so much light and revelation to the glory of God differently from that particular book of the Bible. Esther is so rich. Recently, is it even twice, or I can't remember, because there was a time myself and sister too, during our prayers, that was what we were using. So I think I noticed in one of my recent study in Esther, I noticed that Ahasuerus, that king, was a man that he didn't have the mind of his own. Let me use that word. Go and check throughout the book of Esther. He never took a decision for himself. He only took suggested decisions from others. In Kotombaso, Lumagba, when they if you studied closely, when they removed Queen Vashti, it was just one out of the people he consulted that actually suggested that they should remove her. Each time when a man too, when he suggested, this man is always not even thinking about the aftermath of his action. I was wondering, what did you know? Although it was to the favor of Esther, right? It's something we can talk about today. But what did you know that Esther wanted to ask you, that you were up to the half of my kingdom? Are you serious? I just see, we are not here for Queen Ahasuerus, but then I just want to say that The Becoming really blessed me, because as well too, it spoke to a season of my life, and I really loved it. Then the next one I'll be talking about, my goodness, is The Firebrand. Hi, I think I would talk about it last, because I think that was what actually propelled me to film this video. And by the way, The Firebrand was written by Debola Deji Kurumi, DDK. So sister introduced me to Imesina Seku, although like I knew DDK in passing. I saw a couple of her videos online and all of that, but then it was Sister that introduced me. So, like I was saying, firebrand, right? Let me go back to that. Then the next book I'll talk about is The Outpouring of the Spirit. It was written by Papa Kenneth Copeland. I think this year, I'm not sure who spoke about him. I think it was my mommy. Shout out to Mommy Ibanji. She's one of my mommies in the departments in my department. I think she was the one that spoke about Kenneth Copeland in my hearing, about faith and all of that. Then she spoke about Joel Osteen too. So she spoke about really a lot of people. So I think Kenneth Copeland was there. So that was when I went to go and follow Papa's page on YouTube. But then this particular book was recommended by my mentor, Mama. So she recommended the book. My goodness, see, sometimes I don't know. I think because I love reading, because I read sometimes I feel like screaming. I'm like, what? So much light from these videos. Oh my goodness, so much light from this book and so many things to learn. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is wisdom. So I mean, Outpouring of the Spirit was like the simplified how Holy Spirit should work or should be at work in a believer. Like that was like what was the English, like they simplified it actually, so it was making sense. Then again, so the next one I read that was also recommended by my mentor and Mama is The Discipline of a Godly Woman. Guys, in fact, that particular book, I had to tell my friend to see. I was like, babe, I know this book is many, but I beg you, try and read it. Like, my good, see, if you are a lady, if you're a woman, and you don't read any book this year, bruh, you see that Discipline of a Godly Woman by Barbara Uji, which is, I think I'll try and put the name. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'll put the name on the screen right now. So it was recommended by my mentor. Like I said, it's like what every part of your life that a woman should be disciplined and know how to behave. So it was an all-rounder book to the glory of God. And I think I read few books on finances. Sister recommended Richest Man in Babylon. Then I read Financial Management by Joyce Meyer. It was wonderful too. Then I think the only career book actually I read this year was The Lean Startup, and I'm not done with it yet, so that's why I didn't talk about it. Then I read books on emotions like this So Fast by Dr. Cindy Tree. Then I read Emotional Intelligence. Emotional Intelligence. Can't remember. Then I read a couple. Then I read also. There's this book of Daniel Goleman that I read. Can't remember the title right now. Those are the amazing books I read. So let me talk about the two highlights. The first is, of course, from my one and only best Christian story, whatever author, Mama Francine Rivers. My goodness. I mean, if you've ever heard me talk about Francine Rivers, you know that I love her so much, right? So she was the one that wrote The Masterpiece. The Masterpiece is a piece itself. My God, like that book got me crying, angry, laughing, thinking at the same time. See, if I want to review that book, right, I can take a whole video to review the book about things that went through my mind, things that happened, how it literally speaks to our life as individuals, how there's a void in every human's life that you can try as much as possible to cover it up, but last nasty deception. So it was so much light. Like, no, it was blessing indeed, and I really blessed God for that. It was Sister too that recommended the book, The Masterpiece by Francine Rivers. Then to my major highlight, and that's Firebrand. I chose to talk about it last. My goodness. So Firebrand really spoke to me because it was as if DDK was looking at me like this. Or when God has given somebody a template and be like, go and write about Fola. That's why the book spoke to me that much. I remember there was a day I sent a voice note to sister and I was like, I would scream, like I feel like screaming. That's how much that book blessed me. Like, now let me summarize the part that got to me most. Was talking about the refiner's fire, talking about when gold, the raw form of gold, when you want to put gold into fire. If God has an opportunity to talk, right, it will tell you that I don't want that fire, the heat. But when it comes out, my goodness, everybody will admire it because it will be so fine, purified. That's like how the purifiers and the refiners fire is. It sets you on the fire, not the dimension of the fire of God that consumes this time, but the one that purifies, then sets you on fire, shakes everything that it is not aligning to the purposes and the will of God off, and then brings you to this place where people literally see the glory of God on your head. Like, you see some people, that something's different about this person. This person is different and all of that. So that's like the part that got to me most. At some point I was crying. I was like, my goodness. So that thing that you think that is hard, you are going through, is actually a process of purification. It's actually a process of refining. Do you know that even in Esther, let's go back to Esther. Esther had a season of 12 months for purification when they were applying different ointment. See, I don't even want to go to the story of Esther again. When they were applying the ointment and all of that, my God, I don't know, the refiner's fire, the purifying fire, it spoke to me a lot. That thing I think that I'm going through, that thing I think that is happening to me, and I'm looking at it and be like, God, is this you? Are you even here at all? Is to bring that gold out of me, that one that people would see, that version of me that God really wants to fulfill his purpose. I don't know how to put it. The version of me God wants to use. Like AGS will always say, what you are looking for is actually looking for you too, but not this version of you. So I'm so grateful to God for those books, and I listened to a lot of messages to the glory of God this year. I mean, from ranging from my papa, pastor, daddy, grandpa, since birth, of course, Pastor Adeboye, to other ministers in the Redeemed Christian Church, of course, to my pastor as well, to my Zona pastor, to my dad, to my mama, to of course Apostle Joshua Selman, to Apostle Mike Oroko, to Mama Kingsley, Mama Mildred, and Papa Kingsley Okonkwo, and I can't really remember, to the rest oil, to who else I'm trying to remember, like people that listen to their message, to Brother Gilead Connie, then I really can't remember right now, and of course to my mentor's husband too. Hello. To my mentor's husband too, to a lot of people that blessed me this year. I'm really grateful for the gift of you. Thank you so much. So this is major, like my summary of spiritual, emotional, financial material that I used this year. So thank you so much for watching. I would see you in my next video.